got Dolores. She's enjoying the natural lighting that I have for once, because I'm filming a video during normal waking hours instead of 3 o'clock in the morning like I normally do. But anywho, for everybody who's subscribed, my natural hair, I dyed it. I got like my mohawk now in the back. I don't know if you can actually see it, but yeah, I've been wearing wigs for a while too, and I finally decided to go out and brave the outside world and get it cut. It's a pain in the ass with all this COVID stuff going on. I had to wait outside like for 15-20 minutes, even though I checked in online already, with like 6-7 other people who were waiting outside, because we were all wearing masks, of course. And you have to keep them on while people are cutting your hair, and the hairstylists have had, I guess, like a couple months to get used to it, but I mean, I was just like, how are you gonna cut hair with, because my mask went like all the way around. So I was a cheap bitch, and I got like the $1.99 one, or whatever, the one that it was basically just a head wrap that I just pulled over my face. But anyways, I got it cut there, and then I went home, and I was like, I kind of want to dye it. And so I dyed it like a silvery purple. Well, silver, and then I put purple on the roots or whatnot. And then I messed around with it that way. So, yeah. I got a new video. I just got off work, and I'm kind of tired, so apologies if it gets a little bit more rambling than usual. But, yeah. I've been seeing a lot of comments about more detransition stuff. And so I thought that a good topic, something good to talk about, might be my thoughts on passing, after I've detransitioned. And that's also something that's been on my mind a lot, especially in the last couple of days since I've just cut my hair again. And it's just kind of brought some new things, some new feelings to light. So, yeah. We're gonna get into that. I got mixed nuts, like cashew butter, and like a bunch of other seeds from Costco. Because I tried Instacart. I did, because I was too lazy to leave the house, and I had a free trial. This is on the ground. And they bought me a bunch of stuff. But it's really thick. Anywho, transition and detransition and passing. I don't know why this is taking me so long, but yeah. Before I detransitioned, and while I was transitioning, I had some issues with passing, but I don't remember it being anything overly drastic. I don't remember having any, or at least not that many, real worries about passing as a guy, because my voice dropped really soon when I started testosterone. So I sounded, at least if I didn't look quite like a guy yet, if I didn't pass, at least I knew I sounded like one. Because even when I was working, and I remember this very clearly, probably within the first 3 months of me going on hormones and transitioning, I would get misgendered just by looks. I'd have a customer come in line, and I was still a cashier back then, and so I dealt with people 24/7 every single day. In management now, if I want to avoid people, I can go in the back and do some paperwork or something if I really don't want to. But as a cashier, I mean, you can't really do that, so you're kind of forced to... What are you doing? You're being a pain in the ass today, aren't you? But, yeah, so I had to deal with people a lot more back then. And so this is right with my first transition, or right in the beginning of my transition. Can you not? Please. There you go. But yeah, and so when people would come up and look at me at first, especially when I didn't quite pass yet, they would say, excuse me, ma'am, can you help me? And it would get really awkward sometimes, but because they'd say ma'am, and then I'd be like, sure, how can I help you? Like, it was because my voice was so low, but I didn't quite pass as a guy yet. And so they'd be like, oh crap, I'm sorry, sir. And I didn't really care because, I mean, if I don't pass, I don't expect you to say the right thing, you know? And so when I first transitioned, my issues with passing, I guess, really came from just kind of the facial looks. And obviously, me not actually being transgender came into play with not having dysphoria with anything else, because I didn't. And obviously that was because I wasn't actually transgender. So at the time, my only issues with passing were just wanting to look more and more masculine. But the voice, having such a deep voice, kind of alleviated a lot of the issues that I was feeling towards the beginning of everything, because I felt like if I started talking, then people would think, oh, that's a guy, you know? I mean, if I looked like I was a 12-year-old, you know? It was like I looked like I was 12 or 13-year-old prepubescent teenage boy. And I didn't really have a problem with that. Like, I remember joking with some customers who would come in, and they'd see me, and really I was like 19 or 20, but they would look at me and they'd think that, holy crap, that guy looks really young, right? And then they'd like, you old enough to work here? And I'd be like, no, send help. It's child labor. And I would joke around with that kind of stuff because I really didn't care. I was really easygoing with it. Kind of the same way I am now. Like, I've never really been uptight or, like, really sensitive about people asking me questions, even when I first transitioned. And so, yeah, when I was first into my transition to becoming a guy, I really didn't have that much dysphoria. The thing I wanted most was my voice to drop, because I remember trying to talk lower, even before I started taking testosterone, which was really only for like a week because I jumped into it way too fast. But yeah, so I can't really remember, at least towards the beginning, not having very much like dysphoria. And I said obviously that's because I wasn't really trans, but trying to look like a guy, the thing that I wanted most was my voice. And then afterwards, I was just like, well, crap, I want a beard and shit like that. If I'm gonna be a guy, I want a beard. It wasn't necessarily that I wanted a beard, it's just I thought that beards on guys were aesthetically pleasing. And so I wanted that, but I mean, that was later, and that wasn't really an issue or about passing, because at that point I had been on testosterone for like a year and a half already, and I wasn't really having very many issues. So when I transitioned, I passed, but I looked really, really young, right? And that didn't really bother me. Like, I think the thing that bothered me most about it was people asking me if I was old enough to work there or whatnot. I mean, that constantly bothered me. It just got irritating, mostly. Be like, how old are you? And I'd be like, I'm 19, you know, like, shut the fuck up already. And then they'd be like, oh my gosh, you're 12 years old. And I was like, yeah, thanks. But that wasn't really an issue with passing. And as I detransitioned and trying to look more like a chick again, kind of has given me a whole different perspective on the whole thing. Because not only have I transitioned from a female to a male and tried to look more masculine, I have also detransitioned from a male to a female and had to go through, at least for a period of time, the struggle of trying and worrying, especially about looking and passing as a woman again, too. And that was probably a completely different feeling, is detransitioning and worrying about passing as my own gender. I mean, that was something that I never really anticipated, was worrying if I was going to look like my own gender. I mean, because I thought, like, okay, I'm going to detransition, and, like, for me, it'll be, like, going back to normal, right, to, like, how I am biologically. But I was worried that by me detransitioning and going back to normal, you were just not having it, go on, that it would just make things weirder, almost. Like, going back to normal would make things harder, which, I mean, I was like, seriously? Like, this can't be happening. But that was something that I remember distinctly feeling, is that by going back to normal, I would have a harder time, almost. And that was something that probably almost kept me from detransitioning at all, was thinking, well, if I'm ever going to pass as a woman again, you know, everything like that. And I don't have as many issues now, and I know that a lot of that's just in my head, but still, towards the beginning, I remember having a lot more issues with that. So, bringing it back to my natural hair that I'm sporting for you guys today. Since I got cut a few days ago, I kind of noticed that I may not worry about passing regularly. Like, I still do have thoughts, like if I go out of the house without makeup on or anything like that, I might, especially with my voice, that I might talk and then they'll see me or with short hair or whatnot, or with no makeup, and then they'll either think that I'm trans or that I just don't pass anymore. And like I said, I know a lot of that's just in my head, but sometimes, especially towards the beginning, I really struggled with that. And it almost my femininity, like makeup and wigs and physically feminine appearance, almost became my new binder, because when I was a trans man, I had to constantly, I couldn't leave my room without my binder on, especially since I had roommates. I couldn't leave the house, I couldn't go to the store, because I was afraid that, well, I can't not have a binder on because those are clearly not masculine, right? And so I couldn't go anywhere without it. And it sucked to do every single day and wear a binder. And I was thinking, well, crap, if I ever, not that I had sleepovers or whatnot, but if I ever were to maybe stay overnight at a friend's house or whatnot, if we ever threw a party or whatnot, I would have to keep it on the entire night if I'm at somebody else's house in somebody else's room the whole time. And it was just things like that, especially as a trans man, which just, the binder thing, I hated. I didn't like it. It was so uncomfortable. And especially since I was so self-conscious to start as a trans man about my chest and worrying if it's noticeable or not, I would wear a binder, and then I would wear a shirt over the top of that, and then I'd wear my work shirt. So I had 3 layers on during the whole, my whole work day. And sometimes it got really, really hot. It'd be 100 degrees out and I'd be in 3 layers working in my back warehouse, working through stuff. And I would sweat sometimes through the entire thing. And it was so, eating my hair. She ate my hair. What? You're nuts. You do that again, I'm timing you out. For your own safety. Good God. Oh, she liked it. Anyways, and I would just remember, the binder was just the one thing that kind of tied me almost to identifying and being a man, was because my binder is what hid what obviously at the time identified me as female, which was my boobs, which were very obvious. And so, kind of like what I said, the binder was the tying factor. Almost all my masculinity was wrapped in my binder, because that's what I felt kept me masculine. And now that I've detransitioned, I almost feel at least at first, I'm trying to work on it now, but I feel at least at first, I've almost traded my binder for wigs and makeup and dresses and everything like that. And it's almost like I have a hypersensitivity to anything that makes me seem remotely masculine, right? Because when I transitioned, I was like, oh crap, I can't just cut my hair and have my feminine hair again like it is now at first, because oh, I'll never pass with short hair, not if I'm trying to be a chick, especially with my voice. And I was so self-conscious about that, so I bought the wigs and I put on copious amounts of makeup at first. It was a full face of makeup every day. It took me an hour and a half to get ready for work, because I couldn't, even just to go to the store, I couldn't leave the house without putting on my full face. And it's almost like my femininity was tied to looking feminine, obviously, but the wigs and the makeup, it's almost, those kind of became my binder almost. And then I decided to cut my hair, or I wanted to, because it was growing out, and I was thinking, okay, well, I really want long hair, I've detransitioned, I'm gonna be a chick, I want natural long hair again. And so for a while, I was really trying to grow out my hair and everything like that. But I mean, it's just that my hair was so short, it would have taken me years to grow it out, and I just didn't know if I really wanted to, but I didn't know if I had the strength to wait that long with that much patience. And it's not that I don't like short hair, but short hair is for guys, or it makes you look more masculine sometimes. And I use air quotes because that's obviously not true. But in my head, I mean, like, going out without makeup on, wearing short hair, you know, I mean, even wearing pants that were, like, my cargo pants that I like, I mean, I couldn't, oh, and she's gone, there we go, but, like, I couldn't wear it, I just couldn't, because, I mean, it's like I had a hypersensitivity to anything that made me look remotely masculine. Sorry, it's my neighbors, I don't know if you can hear that, but I just couldn't do it. And so when I decided, okay, well, maybe I should cut my hair again, I mean, I liked the idea of cutting my hair and having the short hair again like that. But in my head, I got so caught up thinking, well, crap, like, with my voice, how deep it is now, and also cutting my hair short, like, am I still gonna pass? And, like, I knew that I don't have very many issues passing now. Like, I know that I look feminine, but it's just, even just the thought of, well, crap, it's like, what if I went out of the house without makeup on, and short hair, and my deep voice? I mean, it was just like, I almost couldn't cut my hair, I almost chickened out. But I didn't. I looked at pictures, and I am obviously very impulsive. I think everybody who's familiar with my channel knows how impulsive that I can be. Like, I kind of jump to 0 to 100 very, very quickly, most of the times overnight. So yeah, I went from bound and determined to wanting to grow my hair out to deciding to cut it the very next day and dye it, and of course, and everything that I wanted to do. But I went out and I cut it, and like, I felt like I looked good, but at the same time, going out, like, I was gonna go to the store, because I went to the haircutting place I went to is right next to, like, a Safeway or something. So I was like, okay, well, I'll go ahead and cut my hair, and then I'll go out and get groceries. And after I had cut my hair, you know, because that was probably one of the few times that I had went out without my wig and my long hair, was obviously to get it cut. And it was all shaggy and nasty. But then I cut it, and I looked, and I liked it, and I was like, okay, I like how this looks, personally. But then I was like, okay, I'll go get groceries now at Safeway, and I was like, oh, maybe I shouldn't. Maybe I should go home. And like, I got nervous again, almost, that if maybe with my short hair, I'm not gonna pass. And even though logically I knew it was stupid, and I shouldn't even worry about that, because I know I'm a woman, and that's really the only thing that matters. I mean, it's like, I preach all day and all night to not give a shit about what anybody else thinks. But, I mean, I have to remind myself not to give a shit, because it's hard sometimes not to about specific things, and in the majority of things, I don't care. But some things, like worrying about passing, sometimes it just really kind of catches up to me, and it just causes issues. And I wear makeup now with my short hair because I like it. Like, I don't have a full face of makeup on or anything. I just have, like, a little bit of blush, highlighter, and eyes, you know. Like, it's a lot of makeup, but I haven't, like, primer, foundation, like, powder. Like, I haven't gone all out. But, yeah, passing as a detransitioner has been a little bit different than I thought it would. Because especially when I first thought about detransitioning, I'm like, okay, I've been through the whole issues with passing or not, with being a guy, you know, it's like, I've been through those issues before. I was like, okay, I can do it again, you know, especially once I do something once and I get familiar with it, I don't have an issue with that. Like, that was the first thing that was going through my head when I decided to detransition, was, I mean, and I had issues with that too, worrying about passing when I first detransitioned. I mean, oh my god, it took me what, a couple days to decide that I wanted to transition to be a trans man, and it took me weeks to finally decide to transition. and detransition, and another couple of weeks after that to actually get the courage to actually do it. I mean, I had briefly talked to my therapist about it, but yeah, detransitioning, especially from a male to a female, or to go back to female, was really hard, and I really give kudos to all the trans women out there, because it was hard. I mean, especially when I was still very much on testosterone and it passed as a guy, I would go into the bathroom and I would sneak in there with my roommates at like 2 o'clock in the morning after I was positive that everyone was asleep, and I'd lock the door, and I'd be so paranoid about getting walked in on. But I mean, I bought a bunch of makeup and I'd put on makeup because I didn't know if I would pass or not, and I was like, well, maybe makeup can help me, you know? And so I'd go into the bathroom and I'd put on some makeup, and I remember the first time that I was thinking about detransitioning. I was just curious. So I bought a bunch of makeup to see if I were to pass, even a little bit, as a woman again. And I remember, and I had been way out of practice with putting makeup on, right? So my application and my technique was not 100% there. But I remember putting it on the first time, and I looked in the mirror kind of when I was done. Like, I had done foundation and blush and everything, and I remembered looking, and I was like, this is partially me just doing really bad makeup, but also it was partially me just being so far on testosterone that I still was a guy, technically. I mean, it looked like a guy, I mean. And I just remember sitting there thinking, like, oh my god, I can't do this. I look like a clown. I mean, it was I got so paranoid and just threw out of my mind about that, because when I first thought about detransitioning, I had set my expectations so high. I was like, okay, well, I'm biologically female. It can't be that hard for me to go back, right? But when I had just that first look in the mirror after I had tried the first time to go back to female and to look like a woman again, it was just like ice cold water. I mean, because I looked like a dude with makeup on, and I felt like a clown. And so I was like, well, I can't detransition. Nope, not it. I can't do this. I look ridiculous. And then I decided that lasted about a week of me thinking, well, I'm a guy now. I will live as a guy. It's fine. I will make it work. And that, like I said, that lasted about a week until I started getting the thoughts again, and then I went in the bathroom again, and I tried to put makeup on a little differently. And I was like, okay, maybe I can make this work a bit. Maybe I can do it better, or maybe I just need to get myself time. And the whole time, probably the couple of weeks that I decided that I maybe might want to detransition, I hadn't been taking my testosterone injections. So it was slowly getting out of my system. But, I mean, for your face to physically change and your body fat to move around, I mean, it takes a lot of time. And I was wanting it to go so fast. And, like, I want change now. Like, I'm not patient at all. So, when I first detransitioned, I mean, that was really hard. Because, I mean, I had just set my expectations so high. And I got so freaked out. But I was like, I can't go to work like this. I can't. Nobody's gonna believe that I'm not gonna look like a chick. I'm not gonna pass. But eventually I had gotten over that, and I had feet hurt. But I had eventually, after buying a wig, because this whole time when I went into the bathroom doing the makeup with my roommates, or with roommates, you know, hiding in the bathroom at 2 a.m., I didn't have a wig, I didn't have anything. And that's why I also feel very strongly that if you were you're a trans woman, or you're a guy wanting to transition into being a woman, and you get discouraged because you buy some makeup and you try it out and you think, oh my god, this looks horrible, like, I still look like a guy, I just look ridiculous, like, I felt like a clown with the makeup on, because I felt like I didn't pass at all. But I also had short hair, and if you don't like the way your short hair looks, buy a wig, try it out. Because let me tell you, when and it was only maybe a couple of weeks after I had thought about detransitioning, because I put in and I bought my wig, the green one that I had, and that was only like 50 bucks, right? And so I bought it off Etsy, and I went from thinking, oh my god, I'm a clown, and then I put it on and it like transformed like my whole look. I mean, I felt like I looked so much better with hair, and that it just helped me pass so much. So I mean, if you are in that boat, I mean, don't give up hope. I mean, certain things you do can completely transform how you look. So yeah, that's just a side note. Don't give up hope, all right? But yeah, and then I had went to work, and I was so freaked out about passing at work with my coworkers and with customers. And for a while, I had some issues, but as the testosterone had kind of gone out of my system and the months had gone by, it got easier, and I had started, I don't know where Dolores is going, but I had started to look slowly, but I had started to look a little bit different. And yeah, so, I mean, it definitely took time, but once I had gone into work the first day, as like detransition, like full face of makeup, like I didn't do it slow, all right? I went in as like Ryan one day, and I kept the same name just because it was easier on my coworkers. And that's also a question I've been getting a lot, like, well, like, why do you still keep the same name, Ryan, if you've detransitioned? And it's not that I don't like the name Ryan, like, it's fine, but I mean, just with the whole work thing, it just, I didn't want to deal with the whole name change thing on top of expecting my coworkers to say a different thing too. Like, they were all cool with it, but I mean, and switching from he to she is one thing, but switching from he to she and also calling me something else was, I felt, just an additional workload for them that I just personally didn't really want to have to deal with correcting people, and so I just kept it as Ryan to keep it easy. But yeah, I mean, the first day I walked in, I got to work, like, I didn't really tell any of my coworkers. I told like one or two, and thankfully the one or two who knew that I was gonna do it were working that day, and so I walked in and I saw them, and they were like, hey, you look great, you know, and encouragement is, you know, everything. But I mean, I walked into the doors, look, I was sitting in my car and I was thinking, holy shit, like, it's time for me to work in like 2 minutes, and I'm sitting here looking like a full-blown chick, right? Like, and then I got really nervous. I was like, holy shit, like, there's no going back now. Like, I have to go to work looking like this now. But once I got in the doors, you know, and probably it was weird for me, maybe like for 2 hours, but then I just kind of got used to it, and then it just wasn't weird anymore. And I think that's a perk of just going all in, 100% switched, like right away. Because, I mean, it was a shocker to some people, but, I mean, it was a shock, but then they got over with it, and it was just, and then I was just myself, the female version, straight from there on out. But, yeah, I'd say that I had a lot of more issues passing when I detransitioned than when I first transitioned. And I don't necessarily know if that means it's easier to pass as a guy than a girl. I feel like it might be easier to pass as a guy than a girl, because I feel like a lot of people, well, I don't know. I mean, some people are, you know, butch women get misgendered for guys too sometimes, especially if you have really short hair. Like, I had a friend in high school who, she wasn't like she wasn't transgender or anything, but she did have short hair, and she was just really, really butch, and she got mistaken for a guy all the time, but she wasn't like a guy. But I mean, women, like, you cut your hair or whatever, you don't wear makeup, and sometimes you get misgendered regardless. But yeah, I mean, I cut my hair, and then I went to work, and I was worried because maybe I have short hair and my voice is deeper, maybe I'll get misgendered, and, you know, it's just gonna cause more issues. But it hasn't been. I haven't had really issues with it. Holy crap, this video is half an hour long. Why does this always happen to me? But, yeah, I mean, it's just the feeling was still there. And I will maybe sometimes still go out with my wig on, because I like having long hair. But, I mean, like, yeah, I mean, I almost felt like I was overcompensating this time around with being feminine, having long hair, and I put makeup on all the time, and I had, like, a bunch of dresses, and it's not necessarily that I really even like those things, and they weren't, like, frilly dresses, they were, like, black dresses. Like, they were my style, but it was still a dress, and it just wasn't something that I typically wore. But, and it's not that I don't like looking good, but with the whole, I mean, I like short hair, like, I like my hair now, but for a long time, I just never cut it because I was so afraid of even looking even remotely masculine, thinking that I would get misgendered. So that's something I'm working on, is the gender thing. And not that having short hair or anything masculine makes you even remotely less female. I've just noticed some issues. And I had never really worried about that before I transitioned, looking feminine enough. Because before I even transitioned, like, I had a buzz cut. I mean, it went shorter and shorter and shorter and shorter, and it was almost like this hair, besides the silver, was essentially really close to the haircut that I had before I even transitioned to be a trans man, when I was like 17 or 18. And then, Dolores going off in the background. And then after that, I just completely shaved it off. I had a complete buzz cut, and there's a picture of it on my Instagram. And you know what? I loved it. I felt great. I didn't get misgendered very much, and it was mostly by really old people. And when I did, especially before I was even trans, I got really frustrated sometimes, because, I mean, I had makeup on, and I looked like a woman, and I was just like, why? It's like, I have, like, eyelashes on and, like, bright pink lipstick. Like, what? And you still think I'm a dude just because I have short hair. And you will not believe, this is a different subject, but you will not believe the kind of questions I got asked with a buzz cut. Holy crap. You want to know how many times older women just kind of blew my mind? And it was always old white women, alright? Old white women always seem to be the people who think that they can just spout out whatever shit they want, right? And it was this older white woman who would ask, like, oh, you have a buzz cut? Like, is that because of a medical condition? I was like, no. And then I had another one. It's just like, oh, like, how are you medically? Like, how's your chemo going? And I was like, what? Like, no. I told her, it's like, I don't have chemo. I just like short hair. She gave me this look like, all right, like, as a woman, you shouldn't like short hair, but whatever, you know? Like, I don't know. But that's a completely different subject. But, yeah, that's the issues. My thoughts on passing as a detransitioner. So there are issues, but it's almost like a completely different set of issues. I mean, like reverse issues. Almost the opposite of what I was having before, which is kind of weird to think about. But yeah. But it's okay, because I can sit here with Dolores and eat my nut butter. There's a dick joke I can make in there, but I'm not going to. Anyways. Oh! Before I forget. You see this? That's Prime. Amazon Prime. I got some stuff in the mail. My, computer stuff, which I totally nerded out about. I got it because I had it delivered to work, so I'm not having $2,000 worth of computer stuff sit out in front of my front door in a cheap apartment complex. No, thank you. But I wonder if you can see that. I think so. And then that one. Oh, that's too close. I don't have my glasses on. I'm so squinting. But yeah, I got the Vengeance RGB Pro, the 32 gigabyte Corsair one. Whatever this does, I know what it does, but I can't remember right now. And this is just it's a 1 terabyte of, I think, solid drive. It's an SSD, but I'll get the hang of all these different terms later. But yeah, I got these. I totally nerded out about that when I got them. My boss handed it a package to me. He's like, you got something in? I was like, oh my god, computer stuff. But yeah, I got these, and then I'm getting some other stuff coming in tomorrow that I've ordered. And then once I have everything, I'll just do like a time lapse. I'll do a time lapse of the room build. I'll actually do a video of me putting the computer together so I can show you all the all the stuff I got, and the specs and everything. But yeah, it looks cool. I think this stuff like glows in the dark, and I'm like a sucker for the glowy lights. But anyways, yeah, computer stuff, it's happening. Now I've just gotten into the rambly stuff. Oh man. I also have so much more ammo for like jokes now than when I did when I was trans. Like before, when I was trans, I would kind of joke and I'd be like, hey, I'm like a superior species because I spent 18 years, and this is obviously a joke, but I would tell my coworkers, like, I'm a superior species, man. I spent 18 years of my life as a woman, which means I automatically know everything, and now that I'm a dude, people actually listen to me. Which obviously was sarcasm, but I thought it was funny. But there's so much more opportunity for jokes now as a detransitioner. Like, for instance, we were loading up at work today heavy boxes, and they were pretty heavy, right? But my 2 other male coworkers that were older than me, right, they were just loading it up and putting it on this big like shelf on this like semi truck, because we were loading it all in. And you know, they were loading up the big boxes, and I got one and I struggled a bit, and I don't know, he said something like, oh come on Ryan, it's like, what's going on? And I was like, can't remember exactly what I said. I said something like, not the man I once was, I'm sorry. Or some shit like that. So, and then they laughed at that. But, yeah, jokes, opportunities.